strapping ourselves in to go through the 2007 financial crisis again. And number 90, The Big Short. This is Long Play Video. Welcome to Long Play Video. We're running through my 100 favorite films of all time. As always, the structure of the show, we'll talk a little bit about the film now, go away and watch it, and then talk about whether it's how I and both of us remember it, I think, for this one. So today's film, number 90 on the list, is The Big Short. Came out in 2015. Basically, every male actor ever is in it. I think that's fair to say.
Yep.
It's directed by Adam McKay, written by Adam McKay, Michael Lewis, and Charles Randolph. It did 133 million at the box office on a budget of 28 million. So it did very well for itself. Very low budget for Hollywood blockbuster-esque.
Yeah.
Kevin, what do you know about this film?
Yeah, I know a good amount about this film. So I have seen this, so that's a good start. You're never quite sure with me on this list. Yeah, I really like this film. I have a sort of a sideline passion for trading and trying to work out the stock markets and things like that.
Ponzi scheme.
Yeah. More Ponzi schemes, definitely more than success at the moment. It doesn't seem to be any way to have worked it out. So I might have to phone Christian Bale up and see if he can give me some help. But yeah, I remember this coming out and yeah, I love this film. And like you said, it's got every single person pretty much in it. And obviously you always know with Christian Bale, you're going to get a certain type of film. And I mean, some great heavy hitters, right? Brad Pitt, Ryan Gosling, Steve Carell. The film allowed us to understand a bit more about what happened at the Jenga GFC. So I don't know if they call it. It's very big here in Australia. Everyone calls it GFC. I don't know if they call. I don't think I remember it being called that in the UK. But
no, what does
you guys call it that? Well, global financial crisis. Yeah.
Oh.
So
the
they
GFC.
do love abbreviating. Yeah, exactly. I mean, if they could put an O on that would be perfect.
I can just really hear it in an Australian accent. I can just really hear it. So
yeah, it is. So it's so random because I remember when I came here, and I was like, "What do you mean? What are you talking about?" And I was thinking I'm missing something really obvious. But yeah, I think we just didn't call it that in the UK.
Yeah, I think credit crunch, financial crisis.
Yeah.
Credit crunch is the more polite and downplaying it. I think.
Yeah. That sounds very pleasant, doesn't it? It's almost like a nice little cereal. Like, it's just a little credit crunch. It's okay, it'll pass. It's like classic British sort of stiff upper lip. Oh, it's merely a credit crunch. We'll be fine. Well, no, we won't. What about you? What do you remember about the film?
I remember going to see it at the cinema. It was my film of 2016, although I can't find my actual review. I think it was a switch in the technology where I record my annual reviews with me and my brother. So it was annoying because I couldn't find it, and that really annoyed me. But I had a draft where I'd been typing it up. But yeah, I remember when I did write it, I wrote it was a good film and an important one. And I think that's definitely why I like it so much and why it's in the top 100. Just because at the time, obviously the world events have gone past us now. But at the time, it was the biggest financial thing of our generation and of our lifetime.
Yeah,
and almost, I think, sort of as far as impact was concerned, it did sort of feel like with 9/11 as well. Obviously, that it was just such a big impact to everyday life and what we kind of thought about it, and things had suddenly changed. And even now, sort of when I think back to sort of pre-2008 at work and like money that was spent and things like that, it does seem just crazy. And there's a real shift in it. So, that's why, I remember seeing it at cinema. I think it's interesting because it does have so many actors in it, but then even as the sort of DVD cover shows, it's supposed to be those actors, but like unrecognizable. Which I think Ryan Gosling probably more than all the others you kind of have to take almost a double take that it is actually him. Especially it's obviously the guy who plays us a bit of a nightmare.
Yeah.
But it was the first of Steve Carell's sort of bad guy but good guy parts. I think that was very different to how we perceived him. And then Christian Bale, obviously, it kind of almost reminds me of like Robert Downey Jr. and Tropic Thunder, isn't it? He probably actually like did trading and didn't sleep for 20 days and just looked.
Yeah. It's almost like any role he does now is like, I'm just going to go method. And you're like, well, no, it's just a guy in an office. Don't worry about it. No. I'm going to really get into it. This guy's eccentric. Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Perfect. He does go after it, doesn't he? He's definitely got his sort of unique niche now.
Yeah. It's okay. I'm going to go fight crime for 2 years. I'm going to murder my parents so I can have motivation to play Batman. Well, wait, Christian. Yeah. It's fine. It's an animated series.
Don't worry about it. Yeah, I'm going to go and live in a well for 4 years. Whoa, what's going on?
Someone's got to replace Daniel Day-Lewis, I guess. So it's taking up the mantle.
Yeah. So I think you're right. It is a very important film. I'll be looking forward to watching it again and seeing a couple of things if I still enjoy it. And also if I understand it more than I thought I did the first time round. Because I'm not sure that I still understand exactly what happened. They try and dumb it down as much as possible. And I'm like, do I still understand this? Is this work? Do you remember that? Do you remember it still being complicated or they dumb it down much?
Yeah, I mean, I think I understand. I understand a lot of what happened and where the money went. What I don't understand is betting against the market. Like, I don't understand how people can say, well, this is going to. It's the same with all short selling, which I kind of. I listened to a podcast the other day and someone was talking about short selling Tesla, and I was like, oh yeah, I get that. So I understood that now. So maybe, I think it will be, is it going to be Margot Robbie who explains it to you? Is it going to be Anthony Bourdain who explains it to you? Like, which one is actually going to be dumbed down enough for us to understand that side of it? I think will be interesting to see.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think that's the one thing that the one piece I wasn't quite sure if I remember very well, but the rest of it, I feel like they're all really good performances. I think, as you said, it's such a seminal moment in our history that it's almost like a documentary, right? Like you're like, oh my God, you're sitting there watching it going, I can't believe this happened. And then that happened. You're like, oh God, of course that then happened. Whereas really it's a dramatized film. So it shouldn't feel like that, but it kind of does, right? Because there wasn't really anything else out that could, I don't know, maybe nothing else that could describe it to the lame person. And so this was that, really.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting from sort of the documentary point of view because it lost out on the Oscar to Spotlight, which obviously is sort of similar in theme, at least as far as sort of documentary stuff, and is a really good film. It's not on the myth, but it is a really good film. So I think you're right. What did you have any impacts from 2008? Was it sort of a big thing in your burgeoning career as well?
It didn't really impact me too much at the time because I didn't really have any assets or anything that it would impact. So I guess I probably may have had a few shares, but nothing really. But I guess what it probably did help me in the long run is it allowed me to get on the housing ladder afterwards. So I think that then helped me do that because obviously it meant the prices were a lot lower and I was able to sort of get on the ladder. But nothing really, unfortunately for me, I didn't have any like giant share portfolios that I was really... And that hasn't changed since. It's the same now as well. So still trying to work this game out. But how about you?
Yeah, so I was at a startup. I just left Microsoft, so I was working at a startup, and I remember sort of the credit crunch being announced. And actually, me and my wife and two friends went out on a credit crunching day where we basically just went out and spent loads of money. and just ate out in all these different restaurants and drank champagne.
Yeah.
We were like, we're gonna spend our way out of the credit crunch, because that was kind of part of what people were saying was going to be possible. Obviously, on a geopolitical level, not on like what people
No.
spending all of their money.
That sounds more like Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
No, there's similar themes there. I think actually it was a great day. We didn't we didn't go and sing on a parade.
Like,
and then 2 months later, the startup lost all of its funding, and I was laid off for the first time. Then that kind of led me to the job that I have enjoyed the least, because I took a ridiculously low level job, which in hindsight I probably shouldn't have done, but also then I'm not really a sort of a regrets kind of person, so it led me on a path into a different way. But so it did actually have like a big impact, and I do think it is, as I say, like a really seminal moment in kind of our generation that did just seem really massive at the time, and still kind of into the 2010s, and then obviously other things sort of since. But I think that is almost the interesting thing that I'm going to watch for this time is, does it seem less, or does it seem lessened after COVID and Ukraine, financial situation that we're in now? But obviously it did lead to austerity here in the UK, which is screwed out public services and education for still. And I think it did really put us onto the path of the inequality that we see, because it really was
great.
The average person who kind of lost out and lost their job or lost their mortgage in many countries. And yet the rich people essentially were kind of protected from it. And I was trying to find some stats on like how much it increased the wealth of the 1% versus the 99%, or like even the 0.1%. I mean, obviously, talking about Tesla, they did very well out of it, because they were able to get government grants then from the bailout, which actually kind of helped them to keep going, because they wouldn't have been able to keep going without that. So it's, I think it's a super interesting one. I just remember at the time as well, obviously when Obama was coming in, and it would be interesting, how much it's his legacy. Obviously, he kept the economy going, which it could have actually, just completely closed down. But kind of at what cost for everyone. And yet now we've obviously had America and the UK, like with furlough and with giving out stimulus checks and stuff. Even that just seems so much more than what happened in 2000 in 2008. So I think it's going to be interesting, I think, post-COVID, watching it, to be like, why did they make such a fuss? This wasn't anything.
Well, I think when you've survived Liz Truss losing at 80 billion in a day, then really this would be easy. You'd be like, well, what's this? This means nothing. This was barely touched the sides. We nearly collapsed the entire UK market. So
exactly.
It will be interesting. I mean,
maybe this is the first domino that just set and sent all the others.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say that actually. That's literally what I was just about to talk about, is that I do think this was the first path onto Brexit. I think this really led, I'm, not to get too political about this, but I'm quite a firm believer that I think Brexit was a vote for change. And I think there were a lot of people that were still suffering a lot after the credit crunch. And I think that's why they voted that way. And obviously there was a lot of lies from Boris Johnson and from Nigel Farage as well. But it'll be interesting to see. You're right. Looking back on it now that we've gone through so much more, how does it change now, and how does it perceived? I was just having a look at the actual synopsis, because I was like, I wondered like how they actually describe it, and I was like, even this. Like, it's a film about like how the world nearly collapsed, and they still try to put a positive spin on it. And it's like a group of investors bet against the United States mortgage market. In their research, they discover how flawed and corrupt the market is. And I'm like, that doesn't feel like that's got the gravitas across. I'm like, the world nearly like collapsed. It was like because people were doing really bad things. It's like, oh yeah, these guys just had a little bet, and then they're like, oh, and then they found a few secrets.
It
Yeah,
makes them sound
a
like
bit
heroes
different.
as well. It's just like, or it
Yeah,
should, at the end of that, it should be for their own financial gain. It wasn't like
yeah, yeah.
they were
True.
whistleblowers that then
Yeah,
that, they then meant that the bad people went to prison, because not a single person who did any of the bad stuff went to prison.
yeah,
I think there's like
yeah,
one guy. There's one guy that went to prison for it, which I'm sure it wasn't a bad prison.
yeah,
But yeah, no, you're right. That makes them sound like heroes, and that they
yeah,
just accidentally stumbled upon something. But
yeah,
I also there, and one of the reasons why I like it so much is that it blends that documentary style with legitimately funny scenes, and it is very well written. I mean, Adam McKay,
yeah,
obviously, as a director, has some classics. But he was kind of coming into this, off the back of like things like Step Brothers and the other guys. And so for him to sort of take a very serious subject and sort of have that documentary style to it and talking to the camera, but still, I think, make it legitimately funny in a lot of times. I think it is a real skill. And obviously since then, with Don't Look Up, I think he sort of, he didn't get that balance quite right. Which is a great satire, but almost was a bit too preachy, I think, which then didn't hit. Whereas I think with this, it's that perfect blend between kind of trying to explain it and have people understand it, doing that almost in a funny way of like, look, this is really important. You need to understand this, but never in a preachy way. But then, Steve Carell, I think, as probably what I would say is the main character, he has some great lines. He has some really funny bits, but then he also has some real poignancy with sort of the brother kind of storyline, and then and does bring like sort of some humanity to it. So I think that for me is why I like it so much. It's just it kind of blends all of those things, which I think is a real achievement. That it isn't just like, oh, Hollywood are telling off the bankers because obviously Hollywood's so perfect. It's not like that at all. They get that balance right, which I think is super hard. So that was why I liked it so much.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, you're right. I mean, I hadn't really thought about that. It's it's, as we said, it is that kind of documentary style, but actually it comes across, it's still a film, isn't it? So it still has to be entertaining. And you're right. I hadn't really thought about that. He definitely achieves that. It's still, I'm not sure whether you can say entertaining. It's probably not the right adjective, but
but I think it is. I think legitimately it is. Like it is a funny film, and it would be interesting, obviously, from a generational point of view, for kids that were too young to enjoy that. Like they could watch this film with no sort of understanding of the background, and I think just find it a legitimately funny film without without having the impact I think it would have for us and kind of our generation who knows what it's actually sort of about. And then they would just be like, oh, why do they do these like weird vignettes where someone's explaining something in a bar?
Yeah, I think I'm looking forward to it. I'm keen to get it put on in the shop and settle down and see what it's like. See, is it as I remember, or has COVID just surpassed it every way?
Awesome, great. Well, we'll put the DVD on out the back and have a watch and see what we think.
Sad indictments of humanity, I think, was that. I wrote that exactly as soon after I had finished the film. So I think after that, I was just always thinking, what was the point? Why are we still here? So that was my reaction. And but then I was thinking about this yesterday, and I was gonna look to update this. And I was like, oh, no, actually, remember the first half of the film is great fun, where you're like, God, I wish I was doing this and making loads of money. But then obviously there's the second half. So yeah, it's a pretty I forgot how, jarring it actually is.
Yeah.
It was an awful thing that happened, and sadly, as they sort of say at the end, yeah, nothing really got done about it, and nothing has actually really changed.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting that 11 movies in, this is the first movie that we both text each other after watching. I think
Yeah,
it really is kind of, it does just annoy
yeah,
you. It does just like, it just causes anger. I
yeah.
found, I was just like, ah, these people, like,
Yeah, what are they doing? Like, how are they? Yeah, it was crazy, wasn't it? And you're sitting there thinking, so hold on a minute. So everyone knows about this, and even when it's going wrong, everyone's still just trying to hide it. When they go
yeah,
and see the woman who's giving the rating to the like the CDOs and the different packages, and she's just like, yeah, we have to do this because we've got a competitor. And you're like, how is this person got a
yeah,
competitor? Surely that should be independent and set up. And it's just like, no, it's all about competition and just, stuffing people up. And they're saying like now, like it's basically gone back to, they've just redone new, different bundles, which is basically exactly the same thing.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, I mean, it's the same with, well, the pop up from Karen Gillian, as yeah, she's
Mm.
working at like one of the one of the agencies, and then going to go and work at one of the banks because that's just what people do.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait, what? No, that's not right. I mean, I
Yeah.
think also the other thing that really struck me, obviously, there's so much money being spent by both sides, like the people shorting and the people not. They're eating really great food.
Yeah.
And they've got nice watches, they've got great suits and stuff. But the single reason that you're not supposed to envy them, there's not a leather jacket in sight
There you go.
in
There you
the
are.
entire film.
That is very true. You're right. That's where we can highlight the difference between good and evil. We're like,
Yeah,
all of
yeah.
these people are not partaking in the well-known aspect of goodness, which is true leather jackets.
We are not supposed to envy any of these people because none of
Yeah.
them can pull off a leather jacket and still look cool.
Yeah, that's true. Even Ryan Gosling's thinking, they're like, you're going to have to wear one. He's like, no. These people are evil. I can't put on the good jacket, the cape of goodness.
I think with all of the actors, or with maybe the main three, it
Yeah.
is most. I find his most jarring. Like he just looks completely different, almost a bit
Yeah.
like Ryan Reynolds as well. I kept whenever I was remembering, I was like, is it Ryan Gosling or is it Ryan Reynolds? I just couldn't quite remember.
That's a harsh indictment, that is, isn't it?
Well, I
Blimey.
think it's very well acted. I think
Yeah.
it's just playing it. But I think yeah, we've all seen old Brad Pitt. I think in other things, and Steve Carell's brilliant in
Yeah.
it. He's really
Yeah. Steve Carell's very
but
good.
he's maybe recognizable. But with Ryan Gosling, I don't think he is as
Yeah.
well. I think it's stood on a little bit of test of time. That obviously all three are a bit like, well, money's all sort of not as good as it's just having money isn't the point. And none of them have actually just cashed out and done superhero movies for a long amount of time as well. So I think that's actually stood up quite well. Otherwise,
Yeah.
getting the actor and the role mixed up, it could have been like, you sold out to Marvel. I don't care about you.
I think rewatching it, because it is like, pretty much the story, because obviously we lived through it and I've seen it before, so I know what it's about.
Yeah.
But watching it again, it is quite hard. But I think the thing for me, one of the things that I really liked about it, rewatching it this time, was the acting is so good. The acting is, for me, what really pulls the film together and pulls it through. You've got the crazy method style of Christian Bale, through to just, Ryan Gosling just breaking through the third wall and just talking to you and just sort of being that sort of almost smarmy type sort of banker. And I think, they really pull it through. I think a story like this, I think it would have been very difficult and very hard for people to watch and swallow if you didn't have that level of high-end actors pulling it through, because it's not really like there's some comedy that Gosling brings in, but there's not really much comedy. It's just raw. This is what they did. And you're like, I can't believe this is what they did. This is how bad it got. And you're like, I can't believe how bad it got. and this is what the punishment they got, and you're like, wow, okay, so nothing, and it's pretty, like I said, it is pretty jarring, isn't it?
Yeah, it was way less funny than I remembered. I remember it as like
Yeah,
as making me quite angry at the time of
yeah,
watching it, but like that it was still quite funny. But actually, like
yeah,
almost beyond Steve Carell doing like just being angry and like that being quite funny. But beyond
yeah,
that, and I think that's part of just sort of looking back on it now. And I think it's just be super interesting because at the time for us, it was like there was 9/11 and there was this and that was basically it.
yeah,
But obviously there's just been so much stuff with
yeah,
COVID and now with obviously the interest rates being so much higher and yeah,
yeah,
presumably heading for something similar. Like, I mean, everyone's mortgages have gone up or about to go up
yeah,
like 5%. So I
yeah,
think it's just sort of, yeah, at the time it was real like, oh, yeah, this is the worst thing that's ever happened. And now I'm a bit like, well, it's probably top five. So,
yeah. It is crazy, and it's weird to think like at the moment there's like kind of two wars going on as well. It's
yeah,
just like a mad sort of, yeah, you're right. It's definitely a bit different. I did think you were saying about Steve Carell being angry. I felt like when I was looking at I wrote this down when I was watching it. I was thinking, oh, in my life, I used to be like Ryan Gosling, like the funny, quirky guy who just walks on with it and has enjoyed life and just being quick witted.
was that before we met? Was
Oh, here we go.
it?
Set that one up for you. And then I think like now I'm more like the curmudgeon that is Steve Carell. I'm just like, yeah, just as he's just walking through the street and he's just like hating on everything. It's just like, why are you all here? You peasants, get out of my way. I'm trying to change the world.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, yeah, I'm sort of resonating with that a little bit.
So surely then you'll move into the Brad Pitt at peace with the world and like living the off grid lifestyle. Maybe it's
Yeah,
those are the phases of your life you'll be able to map to this film, and this film will be like
yeah,
your
that would
evolution.
be the one thing that would be missing would be the $1 million from start to finish. But yeah, other than that, I could be the same. That's not a bad way to go, is it? From Ryan Gosling, Steve Carell to Brad Pitt. I think I'll take that
Yeah,
in my life.
yeah. I think that's
Yeah.
it's a good one. I mean, I think I also did notice that there was the kind of when they go to Vegas, just the
Mm,
with kind of the shots between like the gambling in Vegas and then the banking stuff, and
yeah,
just kind of showing like really
yeah,
they kind of don't know whether they overplayed it, but I think it's just sort of it's a very non-subtle reminder that yeah that the finance world is all just gambling and people
yeah.
doing stuff. But then I did also I don't think I remembered quite so much how much kind of different cuts just from like historical archive footage there was.
Mm,
So it really is
yeah,
trying to be a chronicle of like the time,
yeah.
which I think it does quite well. Apart from the first scene with the dad and the child, I have no idea what that was about with the Mark Twain quote. Obviously, it's a good Mark Twain quote, but I don't know why
Yeah,
it's showing those. But the rest of it, like yeah, with that historical footage and stuff, I do think it kind of yeah shows what the time was like quite well. Um,
yeah, yeah. I think you're right. I think they interjected those quite well, and it was. I think you're right. I didn't really remember much of that happening, and then you go back and watch it again now, and I think as you were saying about Vegas, often everyone thinks about Vegas as a nice party town. You know, you go there and
yeah,
everyone just has fun, and they actually kind of show a different side of Vegas. Like, no, there's also this sort of kind of seedy underbelly that really is what Vegas is actually built on.
yeah.
And that's the side of Vegas that they show, and I'm like, yeah, that was interesting. It wasn't like it didn't make me think, oh yeah, I haven't been to Vegas for ages. I want to go back. It made me think like, oh yeah, maybe I don't want to go there yet.
Yeah, the
Uh,
other side of money, isn't it? It's that it's trying to show you. Well,
yeah,
was there anything that you didn't like so much? I mean, I presume that the Marco Robbie in the bath perplexed you as much as it did me.
yeah. I mean that's definitely I think something that doesn't stand up now. You're like, yeah, you definitely wouldn't have Margot Robbie in a bath explaining something, whereas everyone else is like, if they then had like one of the guys in like a Roman bath, they maybe it might have been a little bit more, level. But like, yeah, that
Yeah,
did seem a bit strange having her in the bath.
Yeah. Although
Well,
the house looks amazing. That's what I was most interested with the deck, and it looks on to be on the ocean. I was just like, wow,
yeah,
that house. I just want to see
yeah.
the house more.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, maybe she got like a good day out at just an incredible fancy house. But yeah, that seemed a bit bizarre.
And a thing with that as well, and obviously with multiple strippers in it as well. The only thing that it kind of made me think is, who is the target audience then for the film? Like, were they almost sort of trying to target
Bankers?
Like, yeah, yeah. That was the thing that I was kind of a bit was like, well, you're like, I get that you're sort of showing the seedy side, but like you're also putting seedy stuff in. So yeah, are you trying to sort of point out to the bankers what they did to try and have a moral reckoning? Because I think I don't think that's going to work. But yeah, that was, it just made me question it a bit.
Yeah, you're right. It's a really, it really doesn't work, does it? It really doesn't fit in with the film. Like it just feels very strange, that part. And it's a really, like looking back at it now, you're just like, this doesn't make any sense. And obviously it's an important part because you're trying to listen and understand what it is they're actually doing. And yeah, it is like rewatching it now. You're like, it just doesn't feel right. Like this. And as you said, the rest of the film's all built up, like you said, around, showing how seedy these people are. And then you're right, you kind of put that seedy scene in. So I wasn't sure. Yeah, that definitely didn't hold up. I had that in there. But was there anything that you didn't like?
I did. The only thing that it made me think this time along is kind of where they were putting the blame of it all. Because again, with Steve Carell, he's a bit like, look, everyone's just like walking around, like, just enjoying their TV and they're not paying attention. And you're just a bit like, well, sorry, what were all of the like general public supposed to do about this? And I don't know, this time, I think it's interesting and it kind of works and kind of doesn't. But like the fact that it's the people who are making money from everyone trying to make money that are kind of the heroes of the piece. And I don't think that they don't focus at all on kind of the consequences. You get kind of a couple of stats and you obviously get the dude who's has to live in his car because his landlord hasn't been making the mortgage. And that's kind of it. And I was just a bit like, I don't know. It just didn't, if you were watching it now, not having gone through it, having something that, people, lost their homes, I don't think that sort of has the impact. And I'm not sure that if someone who doesn't remember it or is much younger watches it now, I just don't think they're going to understand like what a kind of monumental shock it was and just like the impact that it had. So I think for me, it was just it obviously sort of portrayed all of the bankers as idiots and, it's all their fault. And but then it sort of, seemed to roll in the general public into that as well. And I was a bit like, that's a bit strange. I didn't really get that sort of reading on the first time that I watched it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you're right. And you're right. Like people, they have to get Margot Robbie in a bath to explain what CDCs are to us. So I mean, like we didn't know. And I think there was something about the film as well. And I don't know. Obviously, you don't know how much is exactly true to the reality. But one of the things I thought about was, as you said, that there aren't really necessarily any quite heroes in there, but the heroes are sort of the Gosling, the Corral, those sort of, Christian Bale. But you're like, did any of these people actually try to talk to someone to get it fixed? Or were they just like, wow, I can't believe this is happening. This is ridiculous. This is so fraudulent. I better make money off this. Yeah. Which, obviously I'm making that a bit simplistic, but it says at the end of the film, Christian Bale's character, he tried to talk to the government, on numerous times to tell them how he saw it come in. And, actually what's happened is he's been questioned by the FBI and stuff. And you're like, so did you tell them before it happened? And I mean, he may well have done. And that's the thing, you don't know. I mean, that character does seem like he might have been the person that would have tried to flag it, to say, hold on a minute, this is a house of cards that's going to collapse. But it didn't seem like any of them are really, they're just like, this is awful, I can't believe this, I guess we should make money. It's just sort of like
And the thing, Brad Pitt's character is probably the only sort of moral compass on it, right? Where he's like, the death rate goes up for every by 40,000 for every percentage or something, whatever it was.
Incredible stat. I thought a 1% increase of unemployment leads to 40,000 people more dying. Wow, that is, a big stat. I guess, at the end of the day, it's difficult because it's a film, right? It's not a documentary as such. And so how do you, introduce this to people that either lived through it and give them an understanding of what happened, or people that didn't and tell them, what it was like, and trying to go through that story, but also make it so that they actually want to go and see the film? Because otherwise, it'd just be a documentary, really, right? And then that would just come out on Netflix, I guess, now.
Yeah, and that's it. And I think we sort of mentioned it before the jump, but just sort of trying to make it entertaining, but also factual, but also interesting. I do definitely think that they get that balance right, and I think that's why it's such a powerful film. It is just the anger that it creates, which is an emotion at the end of the day, which shows for me that it's a good film, even though I'm not sure that just causing anger is the best thing in the world to have. So.
I did think with Christian Bale normally going so method in his acting, I was like, well, so they start up at the beginning talking about his character, and his character has a glass eye when he was a kid. I'm thinking, why didn't he go full method? Has he not? He could have just put one eye on ice for somewhere and just put a glass eye in for the film. I mean,
you say that. Apparently, he did train his eye to be a lazy eye.
What?
Yeah, I read that in one of the write-ups, and then I did also see that they did CGI in order to do it just very subtly.
That did seem a bit strange as well, where they're trying to sort of give you some background of this character, and it's not that, I had certain things, and so this led me down this path of just operating by myself in the financial sector. And, they don't really tell you about his characteristics of his character, his personality that led him to where he gets to. They just kind of say, I had a glass eye, so I went into finance. And you're like, what? Hold on, where's the connection here? Like, and if I get a glass eye, do I get millions of dollars? Is this how it happens?
Maybe you just have to wait for the economy to tank again. I presume that there's more in the book as well, because that's almost the thing, isn't it? Is that it's a film about a historical event that's actually based on a book. So I think it's probably like a difficult balance to kind of have there. I would say, just coming so on the heels of Whiplash, I was much more critical of his drumming than I was the first time I watched it at the end.
Maybe he's actually bad at drumming, and Christian was so method. He's like, I'm actually good at drumming, and I've had to untrain myself to be like Michael, so that I'm bad at drumming in reality. Yeah, it is bizarre, isn't it? Yeah. Was there anything else that you noticed in this watch compared to like the previous versions?
So I'm definitely thinking of having multiple phone numbers for different people now. I think that's just completely baller, just to be like, which number do we use? And then it's like, don't call me on this line, and hang up.
Yeah, I've told you.
Yeah, and I think with those guys as well. So the two dudes, they'd taken 100,000 and turned it into 30 million.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a mentality thing, but why wouldn't you just stop? Why wouldn't you just enjoy that 30 million and live off that 30 million? I was just a bit like, I mean, I don't know what would be, but I'm fairly sure that 30 million would be over it. And I did also, there was a quote from 1Q84, which is towards the end about everyone deep in their hearts is waiting for the end of the world to come. 1Q84 is actually 3 books, but I love those books. They're really, really good.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you saw a glimmer of light through this film. There was some happiness for you. That's what you're just holding on for. There's got to be something.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know with the references that didn't stand out. I think we've kind of covered them. Do you actually understand it this time? I think we were both like, will we understand it more? For me, the thing that I still don't understand is them buying back the insurance at the end and how they actually made money from it. Because Brad Pitt says that their position is 205 million, but they sell it for 80 million. And I'm like, so didn't they lose money on that? I still just don't.
Yeah.
I get all of what they were doing. I don't get, in the end, I don't get how they actually made money from it, because the banks had gone under. So like they were relying on the insurance being paid out, but like Bear Stearns went under. So then, I still don't.
Yeah, I must say, I'm with you. There were still pieces in it that were confusing, and I was like, I don't really understand exactly what they did. And that's probably one of the great things that they love, isn't it? They're probably sitting there watching it going, yeah, see, we're so much more intelligent than you guys. And it's like, no, you've just been taught this over, if you gave me a week, I'd be all over it. It's fine.
Yeah. I tell you one reference that does stand out very well, and that's Brad Pitt saluting the only other guy wearing a face mask on the escalator. I was just like, wow, that is amazing.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I'll put that down. COVID mask before COVID. Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? Yeah, that's incredible that they got that in, and how accurate that became.
Yeah, that shows that he really was like years ahead of everyone else.
Yeah, definitely was.
I almost to ask how you're explaining it to the aliens, but give it a go.
Well, I went for a couple. So the first one I went for was humans work out how to defeat themselves, nice. Which is fairly vague. And then I thought, no, actually, there was a good scene that I think this will help them better. There's a giant Jenga tournament, but who will win? So that sounded more appealing to get them in. I mean, obviously, Jenga only comes into the film after about 20 or 30 minutes, so they might be a bit confused.
I'm thinking of the cinema guy with Tree of Life being like, "Oh, Big Short, yeah, that's that Jenga movie, isn't
it?" Yeah. Oh, how good would that have been if you could just go around cinemas telling them like, "Oh, yeah, it's all about Jenga. You should go and watch it." And I'm like, "What? That's weird."
I don't understand much about it, but apparently it's just about Jenga.
Yeah, you'd love it. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I went with some humans make money and lots of others lose it, and this was the late 2000s. I also just thought you don't need to invade us. You just if you have lots of money, we'll probably give you the planet. So, that's one other thing.
You just rule it.
Yeah, just take it over. It'll be fine. Any other genres that you think it could be made into?
Well, I did have two on here. The first one I thought was pretty obvious for me. I thought it's a horror, right? Every which way you turn, it'd be like an all-star cast of horror movies. You'd have like Michael Myers, you'd have Freddy Krueger. They would be each of like the banks, or one of them would be CDC or something like that. So I thought horror could be good. Or the other thing I thought it's like a whodunit. And you're like, oh, okay. So, and it's almost like the people would be the packages or whatever. So like one of the characters would be like CDCs or something like that. And you're like, oh, so hold on a minute. Who's ultimately going to lead to the complete downfall and murder of everyone? Oh, it was this person. So yeah, what about you? Any genre you thought you could change this to?
I thought it could easily be a Western. I think if it set it in a Western city back in the day, I don't think it changes at all. In a city, I think you've got almost got all the characters. I did wonder whether there was a bit of channeling that, because you've kind of got the characters of a traditional Western, I think, kind of in there, right? So
yeah, that would be good actually. Yeah, I think that would be great. And then you just have like Brad Pitt would just be like the old guy just rocking on his chair at the front of his house with a shotgun. Stay away from my land. So which character did you most like, or would you most like to be?
Well, it's funny that you say about the Jenga. I feel like, as far as the sales pitch is concerned, I feel like I've been that salesperson who's it's a really good pitch, in my opinion. But I mean, it's kind of the racism and the obnoxiousness to the other guy and the obsession with money. Actually, I think it shows it's physical. Like I've had to do sales pitches many times where I've come up with a good idea that I'm like, that would get my point across. So I think that was just like, I was thinking, how can I use Jenga in a sales pitch now? just to show what I'm doing.
See, I'm telling you, that's what it's all about. The whole film should be more focused around Jenga. Yeah, I think that is a great scene. Just, and at the start as well, where he's obviously clearly practiced the pitch
Yeah,
with Chris, and he's like, "Ready?" And
yeah,
he's like, "Hey, so guys, can you smell that? Can you smell that? What is that?" And Chris goes, "Opportunity." And he's like, "No, Chris, it's money." And you're like, "That
yeah.
was great." Chris always comes in.
When they're like, "Oh, so have you had many takers?" "Oh, yeah, everyone's interested." He's like, "Yeah, which is why you're pitching to a wrong number." And you're just like, "Oh, okay, yeah." You're just joining.
I think that was really good. That was really interesting. And I think in that scene, that was where I got my character that I think I would be. It was the Danny, the guy who's the one who goes on about Nobu. And he's like, they're like, oh, he's the only one that's ever optimistic. And they're all like in there going, I can't believe all this fraudulent stuff is happening. And he's like, yeah, but guys, should we guess, this, still trying to look on a positive note on it. And I was like, yeah, that would be the character to be in this scenario. There was some great lines in this as well. I wrote down a lot of quotes. Did you any that sort of tip the box for you?
I think there are a lot of really good lines. For me, I think for me the best is just when Steve Carell goes into the JP Morgan, like the head of JP Morgan, and they're talking, and he's like, just tell me it's not over 4 billion. And then she said 15 billion. And like, it really, like, just such a physical, like drop in my stomach still, having watched it a couple of times. And Steve Carell's face. I just think it's such a, like, just come on, tell me it's not over 4 billion. She's like, it's 15 billion.
4 billion's already like a huge amount of money. And it's like, no, it's so much worse than that.
Yeah. So I just think they delivered that scene. I just think they both deliver really, really well in it. Because also he's like, oh, you're having fun? Because she's in breath and she's like, oh yeah, loving every moment. Like, she is really good foil to Steve Carell as well in the scene, I think. So.
Yeah.
What were your top couple?
I mean, Ryan Gosling has some good ones, isn't he? I think that one, where he just shuts Chris down is quite funny. There's the one, and it's always with him and that team, like Steve Carell's team. That's where the best ones come out. But I think it's when they go to Vegas and they arrive in Vegas, and he goes, "Oh, it looks like someone hit a piñata filled with white people who suck at golf." So that was good. That was a good one. And then he goes, I think this is at the pitch, actually, as you say, because the pitch does go down really well. And he's like, tell me the difference between stupidity and illegal, and I'd have my wife's brother arrested.
Yeah. That's brilliant. There's another one in the pitch, isn't there, where the guy like questions him and says, well, what are your margins? He says, don't worry about my margins. Nice shirt. Do they make that for men?
Yeah, that scene is great, and that is like Gosling at his best, isn't it? I did think afterwards, I've got to watch another Gosling film. I haven't seen one for a while. I do like him. He's a good actor.
Yeah, there will be a Steve Carell and Ryan Gosling reunion later on in the list. So,
that is a great film. That would definitely be on my list as well. That was the one I was thinking about watching. Maybe I'll watch something else.
So the reviews, the reviews obviously were very divided. I read some of the reviews for the book, which was brilliant. So one of them, detailed insight to the winners and losers of the financial crash of 2008, a history lesson in greed and opportunities, compelling, 1 star.
Wow.
That's
I feel like they've given 1 star to the year rather than 1 star to the film. And then a great review, and then an awful rated. Yeah.
What are you going to have to do to get a 5-star out of that person? So someone wrote a 770-word review for giving it 1 star. But at the end of it, brilliantly, they say, incidentally, this is more a 3-star read than a 1-star read. But who reads 3-star reviews? And I do, like, I'm living that.
That's so true. No one reads. It's got to be 5 or 1. Nothing else is. That is so true. No, I'm going to start looking at 3-star reviews now, based purely on this information.
I think that's what we're going to have to start putting out 3-star reviews. I was like, I felt so called out because that's all we do on the show as well.
Just sitting there looking at you. I'm looking at you, Andy. You looking at these 1-star reviews.
Andy at the end of it. some one star for the movie. Big on Nothing and Sean everything else. They were happy that they'd told that.
Yeah.
Another one, not for me, too complicated, weird filming and bad language. Sorry, great cast, but no thanks. You don't have to apologize to a review.
Yeah.
That's fine.
If you don't like it, that's fine.
One of the most controversial 5-star reviews, well told and informative. I do wish they had put a little more technical detail in.
What? Who wants more technical detail? Honestly, I was going to say this to you, but when there's all the words in there explaining, I think I pretty much got all of them, apart from the one when they go to the fish restaurant, and I was like, oh, yeah, you've lost me now. This is it. Yeah. I was like, I have no idea what's going on here. The chef just lost me completly on that one. He wants more technical stuff in this film.
Yeah, Anthony Bourdain, bless him. Yeah, poor what's it about? But then there were 2 reviews that I thought were really good. One that they said that they were just about to go to bed, but watched the first 10 minutes and then had to watch it all. And then they say by the end, it was someone watching, I think with his wife, by the end, we were both so angry and righteously indignant and how ordinary, non-clever people could be so cruelly manipulated by the alpha few. And this was before Trump came along. Neither of us could sleep anyway, which I think is like that.
That's a really good review.
Yeah, righteous indignation, I think is it. And the next one was felt emotionally worn out after watching this, but was totally mesmerized by it, which again I think is why, like it is that they'll take you on a journey. And then one was
it does.
like all great real life movies like Apollo 13, The Social Network, and All the President's Men. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'd put The Social Network in with Watergate and Apollo 13 and the creation of Facebook. I'm sure that, as worldy event, maybe not. But it was good, and we're definitely going to get. They were just exclusively 3-star reviews now.
Yeah, exactly. There's some really good reviews actually. Like often when we've gone through this before, they're pretty much terrible, right? And that's what makes them great. But that's actually some really good, there you go. The average person just showing you, we do have intelligence as well. It's not just you guys making money. And as you said, ultimately, it's just gambling. I thought that was one of the good things you see when the two younger guys that, like you said, they change from 100,000 to 30 million. Like I thought it was interesting when they're trying to get that form and they have to go to Brad Pitt to go, and it's like this is exactly what happens. Unless you are big enough, they don't even let you come to the table. They don't even let you play, even though the odds, the gambling odds don't change. But they're like, no, you're not good enough. And it's like, well, it turns out neither were any of you guys, but you could still keep doing it.
I haven't seen Monday about the GameStop stuff, but maybe I'll have to have a look when that comes out on because maybe that's the reverse of this.
Might need some more funny films in between that. I think I might start rioting in Australia. That might not work out too well. So one thing I forgot to mention actually, I don't know if you noticed this. So at the end, when those 2 guys, they want to go back in and like, I want to see what it's like. I want to go in. I think it's JP Morgan when everyone's just leaving because they just had to sack everyone. And they go in and you're looking around and it's empty and it's supposed to be, a very sort of compelling, scene. And I think when I would have first watched it, it would have been that way. And I would have felt all the emotion and thought, oh, I can't believe this. Look at this. It's crazy. But all I saw, I don't know if you saw this, there was just one guy still working. And I'm like, did he just have his headphones in? And no one told him we've all been sacked. And he's still trying to make money. He's closing out trades.
He was the runner-up for the person that I thought I'd most be like, to be honest with you. Just look around at the end of the day like, oh, everyone left early today, didn't they?
Just sitting there muttering to himself like, gosh, you guys never do any work, do you? And you never invite me out for drinks. It's always just you lot together, like the entire office on every level.
Either that or he's quickly deleting all of his internet history and he's trying to reformat his computer just in case. I mean, they're just so we don't get sued. It was obviously Lehman Brothers that went under JP Morgan.
Lehman Brothers,
I mean, but so for the similar movies on Letterboxd, they had Enron, Inside Job, Margin Call. I know I do think that that's the other thing about this movie is that it invents a genre. It really does, like in like quite serious documentary, but kind of mixed in with being fun and being more accessible and stuff like that. So it's kind of an easy sort of similar movies to have. But I think that's why it does feel like it's the first of the genre. So
it was a good film. And then so the question on everyone's lips then is would it still stay in the list, and would it change position at all?
Yeah, no, definitely in the list. I think that I was trying to think sort of what film could displace it, and I think Bowling for Columbine would be the only one. Because I remember when that first came out again, hadn't seen a documentary like that, and it was very different. But I do just think this is a really great film. I don't think I could move it any further up or further down, depending on what hemisphere you're in. Wouldn't.
We can have an update on this. I've got for the next pod. There's a little spoiler if everyone wants to come in. There's a little surprise for us all, so prepare yourself.
To shift my mindset. It's not moving any closer to one because it does just make me angry, and so I think it's a really good film. I think everyone should watch it.
For sure.
And that's I think I said at the beginning, like the review that I had of it was like, this is a good film, but this is also a necessary film. And I do think you'd watch it just to kind of understand what happened, and the fact that this is like there's obviously lots of other big things have happened since, but this it was a major shift in the way it works, and like that needs to nice. And
it was huge, wasn't it? It was a real big, like you said, event. I mean, obviously we've had big events happen since then, but it was crazy. Interestingly, because obviously you talk about the other events we say about COVID. Do you think, I was just thinking about this, do you think they would make a film about COVID? Because, or will it be more like a TV series? Because I was thinking now about like the opioids crisis. There's a lot of stuff going on about that at the moment, and all of those generally have become TV series on Netflix or that sort of side of things, rather than a big movie that were released. Like, is it the fact that we think something like this people wouldn't go and see this at the movie now, so actually it becomes more of a streaming service thing? Do you think that would happen?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. And what I was kind of thinking about whether if it came out, whether it would still sort of provoke the same reaction, or whether people would think that why have they made a film about this? I think the problem with making a film about COVID is just everyone experienced it, right? So there was
true.
Like I say, I lost my job because of this, but like I didn't leave my house. I didn't have two kids in the back of a car. So there was definitely some people who were way more affected than others. So you kind of have that kind of storytelling ability. I think with COVID, everyone experienced COVID. And so to tell one story of COVID, I think is impossible, because everyone's going to be like, but that wasn't what it was like for me. Like no matter who it is, thing. So I think it will be interesting.
It would be hard.
Give it 10 years, I think, and we'll see what people sort of think around making stories in COVID or not. And I think it's be interesting.
Yeah, maybe we just do one then instead on Liz Truss and her tenure as as Prime Minister. Obviously, it would be a comedy, and we'll just see.
And we can call it a letter.
Oh, I'd forgotten about the letters. The letters is so good.
Another film off the list. Both enjoyed it. Both very angry afterwards, but calming down. So we move on to the next, which is a classic in the 80s. Looking forward to this one. I think it'll be right up your alley. So we'll move on. Thanks to Tom for the theme tune. That's getting a lot of praise. Twitter's blowing up over it, so that's always good. And we'll next week on Long Play Video.